YouTube comments from a video titled, Why Society Changed Forever After COVID. Part 5.
Too Dense 513 wrote,
I'm not anti-phone or anti-internet, but I'll admit that the fear of truly being yourself or embarrassing yourself and some loser making a story time about you on TikTok is also a reason. People are too comfortable with the recording strangers because it's a public place. It doesn't matter because there's a difference recording your experience and someone happens to be in your video versus keeping your phone any person and defollowing them. Not everyone wants to be on the damn internet. And losers that like to make fun of people with an actual personality are a part of the reason why people are the way they are now. Especially if you're a topic of the day, psychos go way too far doxing people, finding their real names, trying to get them fired AI. It's too damn much. You can't want to have a good community when you're a trash person.
At Melanie Helm 7328 wrote,
For my husband and I who are young mid-40s, our rationale for becoming more antisocial is rooted more in how the majority of society here in the U.S. seems to have gravitated to hate and violence based upon assumption. We have both been in public service. He was in law enforcement and was essentially run out of his career by people who lost their minds. And I am a paramedic in Portland, OR. Between how much the media has lied to the public about many things and how much hate toward cops has been fomented, neither of us has much desire to help people or inspiration to go out of our way for anyone. There is so much entitlement, so much uninformed hatred, so much victimhood with no basis for such, and so many people destroying others' lives for their own 15 minutes of fame. We don't trust anyone anymore and have no desire to. It's extremely sad because before the last 5 to 7 years, we both really loved our jobs and we're very fulfilled by being society's helpers.
At Your Mom 69179 wrote,
I'm so glad I grew up in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. No phones, no social media. It was amazing. I feel sorry for the younger generation, to be honest. COVID made it worse. No one communicates ill anymore. It's sad.
At Laladella 82 wrote,
I don't agree about the gender theory. Maybe that's true for a traditional marriage/couple where the man and the woman are taking in traditional roles, but me and all my female friends were working very hard during that time. I'm single and no kids and a public school teacher. I was teaching virtual and my district still had us coming into work to teach remote. I had weight loss surgery and lost 140 pounds and was working out and walking outside and bicycling every day. When school started to resume in person, I remember a male coworker saying I was the only person he knew that didn't gain weight during lockdown. I also got my student loans resolved during that time. I chose to really work hard on myself, and I never thought of it as a gendered thing because I saw it as pretty equal across genders who flourished and who was stagnant. I also made an effort to keep my life as normal as possible. I still shopped at the store and bought fresh produce while everyone was buying out frozen foods. I coincidentally teach family and consumer sciences, so I was really enjoying the prices on fresh produce during that time. I think people were afraid of eating food people touched, but I wasn't because I know how to cook food and make it safe. My biggest worry was that my district wouldn't support my class, but the pandemic actually revived the vocational classes, and my class is the most popular extracurricular now.
At Johnny Klebitz Revenge 4793 wrote,
During COVID, I was in California working in the food industry. Parentheses 8 months, I was stuck in the fucking house, and it really hit when I memorized the Los Santos Railroad system and beat every Call of Duty game from the original to MW3 multiple times over.
Kylie Loves Truth wrote,
I've always been an introvert and COVID did make it worse, but that doesn't stop me from always being polite. Holding doors, saying please and thank you, They're the magic words. I'm in my 30s and I watched a lot of Barney as a kid.
A kid underscore Charlemagne wrote.
There's a lot that sticks out to me on this. One during COVID, I was delivering for FedEx Express. They were telling us different stuff from the news and management was super happy about it because during the stock went up to like $320 a share. I remember seeing on CNN that COVID could stay on cardboard boxes for a couple days and management at Express would tell us that's lies. They also wouldn't give us masks for the first few weeks or gloves. I know someone mad, but I was like, if I die, I die. I wasn't in the best headspace working there beforehand. We went from doing 6 to 8 hours a day to being demanded to work for 12 to 14 and some work offloading trucks after, or we'd be written up for insubordination. Good money, yes, but I was worn out on the weekends. For all that effort and working late, we were awarded $600 bonus at the end of 2020. I walked out like a week after that and wished I'd done it sooner. 2 during deliveries, though, most families would have their windows open to air out the house, I guess. I would hear constant fights from the houses as parents were working from home, but kids were bored and acting up. I heard and saw spankings like I hadn't before in the area since it was Colorado. I mean, I got hit with switches sometime from my grandma. But I believe the whole don't whip your kids thing is super strong here. 3, it was either #20 or you get 3. Children were always sat in front of an iPad or just in front of an Xbox. I've noticed younger co-workers like 18 to 21 have like zero social skills and will sometimes just drift off during conversation or just stare into the void. I don't know if my nephew is above average or just average at the moment because when schools shut down, my cousin took him to work sites since they were deemed necessary, or whatever the term was, and taught him how to weld and build, and co-workers taught him Spanish, and they went over capitals of states and reading while doing this. Bro is like 10 and I swear he knows more than I do.
At Oso 1248 wrote.
Here's some real truth. Gen Z is the same size as the baby boomers, many of who have already died. Gen Alpha is smaller than them, smaller. Stuff feels frozen because you can't have a youth cultural change if there's no youth. Gen Z and Gen Alpha have already reached their peak effect on culture.
At Caramel Macchiato 6041 wrote.
As a teacher here, yes, they rarely have no individual thoughts. It's more so like no creativity, they just do what they are told. It's sad to see because it's hard to talk to them and get a sense of what they like. They can't write creatively or talk about their likes. It's crazy to me that such young children have no imagination. It's just inconceivable to me.
At Kelly Belly 01 wrote.
I feel like had lockdown been when I was 20 to 21, it would have saved me some bad alcohol decisions I made at bars and in life lol. But I moved to Denver, CO about a year before the pandemic and hadn't made friends, so then I'm alone for 2 years during the pandemic and here we are years after and still don't have friends. It is hard to do, especially when you're sober. But at the same time it's okay because I do love being in my own company. I'm currently road tripping solo and it's my favorite thing to do, and in response to the guy who says no one has manners, I do feel this way in CO lol. Whenever I leave town, I'm like damn, people are nice here. So maybe it just depends on the morale of where you are. I can't say Denver is the most positive place, haha.
At Notaperson 6646 wrote.
I mean, during COVID, I got on VR and made a lot of friends and learned skills. Then on a dating app, met the love of my life. Now we are gonna get married.
P-Crash wrote.
I'm sorry, but don't call me, text me unless you have something to say. I hate being on the phone for no reason. It's the reason I like texts.
At Robin Woolstenholm 6377 wrote.
They were all over 75 and locked in a confined space. and only 1 in 3,000 died. The most well known cruise ship that was locked down due to a COVID-19 outbreak was the Diamond Princess. In early February 2020, the ship was quarantined off Yokohama, Japan, after a passenger who had disembarked in Hong Kong tested positive for COVID-19. Japanese authorities placed all 3,700 passengers and crew under a 14-day quarantine on the ship. During the quarantine, the number of confirmed cases steadily increased, eventually reaching 712 infections among those on board, making it one of the earliest and largest outbreaks outside mainland China at the time. The Diamond Princess became a global symbol of the challenges posed by COVID-19 on cruise ships, highlighting the risks of virus transmission in confined settings and leading to widespread suspensions of cruise operations worldwide.
At Envy wrote,
I was as a paramedic intern during COVID. Society has gone downhill since lockdown, and the world is even more divided than it was before. Post-lockdown, I was very burnt out, exhausted, and just done with it all. But all of it led me to meeting my now husband, who's in grad school. I'm in nursing school, and we're expecting our first baby. So, in a weird way, lockdown did us good.
at Christian Wallace 7422 wrote,
You can look at pretty much every social setting for the last century and literally see the decline. COVID might have helped, but it was already declining well before COVID. Attendance is to things like Coachella have gone down over the years. Attendance is things like NASCAR has gone down over the years. Attendance and things like clubs have definitely gone down. The biggest drop after 2016.
Duranales wrote,
COVID saved me. I got so much together and got my life back on track. The isolation was a deep breath of fresh air and a pause for my burnout to relax. It was glorious and I loved it, coming out refreshed. I naively thought others felt the same. In a blue state, so many people became so negative. You could see based on persona who was left and right, and it became so obvious the polarization that the anger of one side overstepped. Who watched TV versus who worked on themselves. I was always independent, now I'm somehow right-wing because I enjoyed the better parts of COVID. It bled into something else.
Asheshia 89 wrote,
I was grinding pre-lockdown. During COVID, I lost a lot of my drive. I never got it back. COVID really FCK'd some of us mentally. It wasn't fear. It was the contentness of being solo that taught me I didn't need many PPL in my life. And politically, I was independent, which wasn't the majority who were Democratic. So I was socially isolated, thinking for myself. When I wasn't thinking for myself prior to lockdown, going in the office listening to other PPLS stories and news, I followed the majority. But at home I learned who I was, and when I learned who I was spiritually, I didn't want to mingle with the same PPL anymore. And sometimes I miss my old self. BC she had friends.
At Stanctatious 7732 wrote,
So for most of us in the lower income working class, the overall changes were minimal and forcible. I will say that COVID just sped the process up. People cut back on socializing/outings after the 2008 crash. We've never even come close to recovering from 2008, and the pandemic was another blow. The economy, politics, being proactive with mental health, reduced socialization primarily because everyone was strapped for cash and going out was expensive. Inflation boomed and wages stagnated, and damn near everything else discussed has been in motion since 2008. Those who weren't born or extremely young in 2008 wouldn't be able to see these things progress, but millennials and older that have been in the trenches seen this coming in the 2010s.
At Lost Red Alien wrote,
At the very beginning of lockdown, my wife, a psychologist, said this is a very bad thing. Human beings are social. We will be feeling the effects of this for a very long time. I can't emphasize how correct she was. Her private practice has exploded post-pandemic. I personally feel that people's anxieties in general have been amplified. Also, my autistic son was a senior in HS. The lack of structure was not good for him. You never knew when/if school was going to start back up.
At Rick3565 wrote,
Don't need a third space, just need to sit on your porch and talk to your neighbours. Definitely don't need the government to create a space for you to talk to people or show you how to talk to people. Yikes!
At Jarman8075 wrote,
I have to admit after COVID, I don't watch the news anymore. I think after COVID there is more mental illness. During COVID, my man and I went out town and went out to eat, and I always made sure that we went out of the house. I didn't want to live scared, and it made me more stronger. I love your channel, keep up the good work.
At Amy Othello wrote,
It is so weird to hear all this as I am from a smallish town in Florida and we did not lock down. It is actually shocking hearing all this. My job did become remote though, and that was life-changing in the best way for me. Being able to work as much as I need and taking care of my kids. If they are sick, I still work. Summertime, they are home, I still work, etc. Anyways, it was a changing time for sure watching it all.
At Harley Quinn IRL wrote,
158, I really feel like that differs based on where you live. Because where I live, it very much is just like it used to be. But we also weren't truly locked down like a lot of other places.
At Lalu926 wrote,
Can someone tell me why kids don't show up to birthday parties? When I was a kid and you invited your whole class to your birthday party, your whole class came. Now I take my child to birthday parties and he's the only one to show up.
At Sarah Calhoun 7456 wrote,
I noticed two things after COVID lockdowns. One, people act more entitled. Two, American media became garbage due to people are more interested pushing their personal agenda instead. Anything with a solid plot line.
Jarzula wrote,
Nobody says, have a good day, even I stopped saying it. Itman, the government of control did a damn good job altering people's minds, and them not noticing.
At Susami__ wrote,
As a healthcare professional, it's very disheartening to see how people treat us since the pandemic. It led to a complete burnout for me and many others. I understand people were mad at the GovT officials, usually not even healthcare professionals themselves, who were often telling lies about the situation. But treating the people who were working almost nonstop, saving lives and risking their own, like crap, was absolutely effed up. Being in healthcare is draining enough on its own, but being attacked for simply doing your job is horrible. This will only lead to more people leaving the field, worsening the care for everyone.
At Secretly a Celebrity wrote,
Also, an inside guy quarantine was fantastic. Nobody looked at each other. Everyone was weird because everyone was wearing the stupid masks. No appointments, because that was dangerous. It was fantastic.
At Verclad7 wrote,
Loss of politeness. Some of this may be regional. I'm in the South, which culturally has a heritage of communication friendliness with strangers' manners. We also didn't lock down as hard for as long, so I haven't seen a big difference in that, but I think it's maybe where I'm from.
At Zuckertseln wrote,
Trust in authority evaporated during COVID. I'm not just talking about in politicians, but in celebrities, experts, and even social media influencers. There is now a deep distrust in society, and people are no longer blindly accepting change.
At Esiko Sarara wrote,
None of these things are due to COVID as much as the consequences of social media and how traditional media has been pushing fear onto people from all directions. People are getting literally sick in the head. And that's certainly been happening in the US, and Europe.
Mchard 2810 wrote,
Sometimes, in the not-so-far future, there will be a backlash of conservatism/common sense. It's already started. Most people I know are fed up with the way society panders to professional victims, selfishness and regression.
At Wazdwazd 609 wrote,
I'd have traveled and paid 20 plus to go to a bar alone and be approachable. Maybe it's the country I live in, but not once in my life has anyone ever approached me for me. Not once has anyone ever given me a compliment. Only ever when they want something. I just don't see the point in going out. I'm average ASF dude, so online dating is also pointless. Dying alone, 100%.
At Gem Games 3 wrote,
We still haven't been allowed to process the trauma governments around the world put us through. Just move on once it was all over. I was made a pariah in my own country because I refused to take the experimental drug. And how gleeful people were able to other their fellow human beings was disgusting.
At Toxic Zombie Wolf 5692 wrote,
It made people forget how to human. Ooh. Me, I wanted to go out more knowing people were home. But people have lost empathy and got more rude still, just as dirty and not washing their hands. Not to mention the cost of living went up after everyone is miserable. I had 3 birthdays during COVID, as O kept having lockdowns. I'm the only person in my family who 21 first I did nothing. Good times.
At Telcoda 1247 wrote,
The increase in remote jobs is something I see as a big benefit for me at least. I feel like the best way I can contribute would be to work from home. And it being potentially easier to get fully remote positions after COVID is a huge boon to me because of where I live and the issues I have. Have gone into training to become a web developer in hopes of getting a remote position in the future, but yeah. COVID didn't change much for me in reality, cause I was already just an introverted shut-in dude.
Estasi Renee wrote,
I was 23, newly single, just graduated with an associate's degree, and able to lock in and focus on myself. I lost weight, bought a hammock, and started reading. I was thriving during the pandemic. My only issue was the inability to go out and be around people, because I used to be really social. I am a lot more reserved than I used to be, and I hate it.
At Merrick Some Guy 1887 wrote,
COVID was a total scam. Remember when having no symptoms was one of the symptoms. COVID was just one of the outworkings of the curse humanity brought upon itself by committing mass murder of the innocent abortions.
At the Transdiary wrote,
2020 was such a year for me. I wanted it to be a vibe, and for like a month it was because my job was closed from March-November, but my mom died. My dad was sick for an extended amount of time, and I broke up with my boyfriend of 5 years and still had to live with him. My binge eating was out of control, and so was my drinking. I did, however, end up detransitioning, or at least starting to. It was the space from all of my most toxic trans community friends that really gave me the space to exist and really explore what I wanted, liked, and needed. Now I didn't do much, but it's 2025 now and fully detransitioned. Lost the 100+ pounds I gained during quarantine and have actual hobbies and beliefs outside of the community that kept me pretty trapped in who I wasn't.
At Eliasbani 3465 wrote,
I think the rhetoric around calling things the new normal really ruined the mental stability of a lot of people. The promise that it's just temporary helped a lot of people reckon with the situation.
At Adjunct 3954 wrote,
The world did change after COVID, however 9/11 started it all. It changed 3 generations of people in an instant in a traumatic way. Made people to overprotect the newest generations, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, too much and it made them sensitive and fragile. They are not able to comprehend, and social media is not helping at all. I also think the rate technology is evolving than human nature cannot catch up. COVID showed us that 2 entire generations need help, and they need it ASAP.
Ticket 2 Space wrote,
Students are having a hard time thinking because they've been looking at an iPad for years with no regulations. They got mush brain. There's more women in certain industries because of day, not because women collectively decided to start working harder.
At Mads K985 wrote,
As someone who has been at the same restaurant before, during, and after the pandemic, people have lost their manners, are far more pushy, and more willing to yell at you over a small inconvenience. A new rise I've seen is people purposely running you, asking you for something every time you bring them something. It's like they get a kick out of it. Just my opinion.
At Mike D1943 wrote,
COVID was a bad time for me and my family. At first it was great because I didn't need to go to school, I could play games, but then with loud, obnoxious brother. The saddest part is my sister's mental breakdown, and she started threatening my older brother with knife. On my birthday, she tried to leave and stabbed my dad in the leg. I had to call the police on her. She is better now, but she's a completely different person due to her medication. It's a struggle to try get to know her all over again and hope that does all right in the future. I still feel like I lost my little sister. That dark chapter in my life is closed, hopefully.
Punkso wrote,
The thing that did it for me was the fact that I was 4 years out of leukemia treatment when COVID hit.
I had a good job, beat cancer, and was starting to feel a sense of control in my life. Then my doctor called me, told me to quit my job because I was immunocompromised still and at severe risk, and I ended up reverting back to my cancer days. I ended up back at home, stuck in bed, dreading my own death. Then COVID took my dad. All the while I'd read comments online about how NYC deserved to suffer from COVID because we didn't vote for Trump. Then when the vaccine came, my doctor recommended it to me, and those same Trump supporters told me I was a sheep for listening to the man that saved my life instead of paying attention to idiots online that fear-mongered. Personally, at this point, I'd give what happens outside of Nick. The rest of the country can decay, and I wouldn't raise a finger to help, and if you support Trump, I pray for nothing but the worst to befall you. COVID put a hate in my heart that not even cancer could.
At Gary Lester 1617 wrote,
I don't think we should ever forget that we asked young people to discharge any hope of a future, so that a generation of people who had lived very long and prosperous lives wouldn't get the sniffles. Please bring this up the next time you hear a baby boomer going on about how much they love their grandchildren.
Ticket 2 Space wrote,
I don't understand it. Must have just been different in other places. In my city in Central Florida, nothing much changed, except there wasn't too much traffic. Never stopped working. Never had to stay in my house like I'm in confinement. And then after, basically, there was just more people on the roads and in the store.
At Agatai Sadami wrote,
3/13 this. I was 16 when the lockdown started, and to this day I Don't feel my age and socializing became a lot harder after being locked in my own home for almost a year, only being able to talk to PPL online. But it gets better with time.
At Armor Up Podcast 777 wrote,
One of the biggest things I've noticed is young adults can't count money. Every week I encounter PPL and teenagers can't count me back my change owed at grocery stores and restaurants.
At Artemis J 8071 wrote,
Controversial opinion, maybe deep conversations do not have to be about politics, humanitarian catastrophes, or the collapse of society to be deep. It can be very much positive and still be way deeper than just small talk. Also, I was one of the people who didn't do shit because I was battling other shit that didn't make money but cost a lot of it. My timing was so off. It could have been the best time of my life.
At XEIM wrote,
Around 4 or 5 years or so ago, I was wearing my machine head jacket and waiting for my train at the station when suddenly a man tapped me on the shoulder to say, "Hey, nice jacket, bro," then left. This was a simple compliment, but it meant so much, especially as a metalhead, that I still vividly remember this moment to this day. 100% agree with this.
At Gargamel 19 wrote,
As an almost 40-year-old now and mom who had to run errands, I was still going out lol. I did not care, did not get my children vaxxed for it, and was still taking them places. We loved it. I missed the traffic being so great. My husband was already working remote and IMASARM, so literally none of this shit affected us. What did affect us, though, was not being able to visit my dad who was dying of dementia and wheelchair-bound. They wouldn't let me visit him until I agreed to get vaxxed. Then I did, and they acted like they didn't care.
At Steve Malek 4737 wrote,
I've become so introverted over the years that COVID had zero impact on me. I didn't even get sick. Now the world is even more nuts than it ever was.
At Levi Acronym 6770 wrote,
I worked at Walgreens and later Target, so I was forced to go to work every day wearing a mask. It was hot and so hard to breathe, and unlike everyone else, some of us still had to work. It was a miserable time for me, and I try not to think about it. Loved all the bored people coming into the store for essential items like fake nails. Yeah, they were only supposed to come for needed stuff, not makeup or games. Sheesh. All in all, it was just horrible, and I was incredibly stressed out all of this time. Also loved all the people wearing masks with their nose hanging out. They just looked stupid AV, and it was pointless to do that.
The Silicon 2 wrote,
This video is so wildly backwards to me, I guess because maybe I'm an introvert already. COVID pushed people into being more introverted, so it seems to make more sense to me now.
At Larissa Dawn wrote,
216, those reasons very well could be, but also maybe because everyone is so offended by literally everything that no one knows what is safe to say anymore. No one wants to strike up a conversation with someone new if they have to walk on eggshells the whole time. 17 o'clock now, that 100% has to do with how you're raised. I was raised with manners and now work in customer service, which I love. Manners slip out of me often as exhales.
At Lori000 wrote,
I think the lack of social skills is from excess screen time. When people were locked away, many became stuck on endlessly staring into computer and phone. It's sad. I see customer service as pretty bad with some barely looking at the people who come to the counter and their eyes and face hypnotized by a computer screen instead of the person in front of them.
At Emily W42 wrote,
Lockdown in the UK was rough for me. First-time mom with a little baby, I couldn't go out and share experiences with other new mums. On the plus side, my daughter is now really ahead at school, because I got to concentrate all of my energy on enriching and teaching her.
The Silicon 2 wrote,
I got a VR headset during vid, and ironically I'm 1,000 times more social in there than I've ever been Earl. I used to go to bars more than constantly, but was largely a wallflower.
At Gunnerbither 7786 wrote,
So that's kind of the point, man. No one these days wants to do that because we just spent lockdown doing things alone consistently. Don't say lockdown fatigue sucks, then immediately follow up with just go do things alone, guys. Don't worry about it if fun. 508.
At Galian 666 wrote,
Not sure about telling a pretty girl she is pretty if you're not 6+. I do think complimenting an aspect about her you think is pretty is good, though. Her outfit. A part of her outfit, not her body, though. Minus hair. Hair is okay.
Cotty Bear wrote,
I was an essential worker, so there was no lockdown for me. But I found it very funny how often boomers that were successfully fearmongered by the media would overly compliment me like I was some kind of national hero. These were people who probably were less kind to veterans than they were to me as a supervisor at a grocery store.
At Investigative Bean wrote,
If you want a tip for being prepared in the event of another pandemic, learn to produce your own hypochlorous acid via electrolysis. Pennies for the strongest antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, and much, much more.
At Okini_Hasa wrote,
I personally think a great division has happened. We all remember how society worldwide was split into vaccinated and unvaxxed people, right? That was a pretty traumatic time for so many of us, and it's understandable that most folks has lost trust in society. Politicians and the media made things so much worse than they had to be, and it caused a huge rift in society. This can't be repaired so easily, especially not when certain things are still being swept under the rug, because so many who made questionable decisions are now ashamed for what they did and try to avoid accountability at all costs. Otherwise, they would have to admit what absolute lowlifes they are. Sorry, not sorry. We have to talk it out. Otherwise, there won't be any healing from this. The damage is too great.
At Investigative Bean wrote,
Oh yeah, I totally woke up. I used to be a moderator of a pro-vaccine advocacy group, completely pro-science, and a registered Democrat. Now I guess label me anti-vax, anti-government, and pro-Donald Trump. Definitely started out being pro-RFK Jr., who I talked all kinds of garbage on prior. I got the world's largest red pill. And more than one technically.
At WZ7TN wrote,
When lockdown started, I was 15. I spent so much time in my room that I forgot almost everything of those days. Now I'm 20, and I'm starting to kinda lock in. I'm just doing what I have to, working and enjoying my passions. Love from Italy.
At Dylan Smith 6078 wrote,
1735, brother, yes and no. I don't like the term black fatigue because all the black people I have made friends with and the ones that made it to the white neighborhood, let's be honest, for good reason, are the most level-headed, reasonable people. They are more intelligence and etiquette than other white people in the same neighborhood. The real fatigue people are complaining about is bitch fatigue, or what you would call a Karen. It is not a political, race, or religion thing. It is a fatigue of extremes. The real thing since COVID is everything is brought to such extremes. You had echo chambers developed en masse. Every issue is a political, race, religious issue with absolutely no regard to nuance. You can go over every major event in the past 5 years, and there is always two extreme sides, and the only people that get hurt are those in the middle. Like George Floyd, one of the first extremes after COVID. The dude was so drugged up the doctors even said his death was likely overdose. But that doesn't excuse the police officer's behavior or history of behavior. So you then had two extreme sides, and if you didn't join one, you were placed to the other no matter the nuances. Who suffered the most from George Floyd? Black and white and Christian and Muslim businesses. There was nothing about discrimination when it came to the damages of the riots. And the riots didn't solve anything because their foundation was built on extremes. This is every major event. Look at Jan 6th as well, the same damn story.
At Best Laid Plans 2024 wrote,
The lockdown didn't help with people being social, but also the fact that anyone with a smartphone who thinks you're doing something they don't like can just start recording and ruin your life in seconds.
At Investigative Bean wrote,
It's true. People tend to only feel that it's worth the effort to speak up when they are displeased, disappointed, or angry. Generally, never to give positive feedback.
At Investigative Bean wrote,
The best thing about the pandemic for me is when my youngest, born in September 2019, told me that he doesn't remember any of it. He was hospitalized several times as an infant just prior to COVID, cause my oldest was in kindergarten. A literal petri dish. Just before they said the pandemic arrived in the US, we pulled my oldest to begin homeschooling. By the time they closed the schools, we were well adapted to that routine. My kids socialized normally. We didn't wear masks like ever unless in the doctor's office maybe. I am eternally grateful for making the decisions we did for our family.
Tmontler wrote,
We found out my wife was pregnant just as we all found out about COVID. I did use that time to lock in as a dad, put more effort into graphic design work, invested in my house, and finally built my first couple computers. We also traveled plenty with our baby boy Lowell. We weren't scared once we caught on.
At Wolf Hugs 2221 wrote,
I'm disappointed to hear you dismiss raising a family as chilling at home. Raising kids well is hard work, and the birth rate across Western nations is declining, in no small part because women are realizing that unless they're doing something that adds to GDP, they'll waste the best years of their lives having kids. I know countless women who waited until their mid-30s to have kids, so they could build a career society would value, only to find they couldn't conceive, even with IVF. The only way to get people having kids is for homemaking to be recognized as the hard and self-sacrificing contribution to society that it is.
At Jessica Frame Music wrote,
Kids not thinking. I have a 10-year-old stepchild and getting her to think is almost impossible. It's what it is, but it's exhausting and frustrating. You can give her all the details and ask her to come up with a conclusion, and without fail the answer is I dunno. And if we tell her to think about it, she either gets very upset and says I did and said I don't know. 3 seconds later, she'll just regurgitate the details we gave her, without a crumb of original thought. Heading it from an educator that they're feeling with this from other kids makes me feel a little better that it's not just her, but damn. How do we fix this? Because my hubs and I have tried so hard to encourage critical thinking, and she just refuses.
Tid418 wrote,
I'm still the same person I was before COVID. I never stopped doing what I do normally during that time, so for me, it was mostly business as usual throughout. I live in a free state, and we didn't have lockdowns, per se. Some businesses were closed for a short time, but even then it was just as often voluntary on the basis of the businesses. Often, they chose to shut down. They were not forced. People still say thank you, excuse me, and hold doors for strangers here every day. Not being part of the prison lockdown here seems to have affected us less. It all feels very much the same to me. But for those who were incarcerated by no fault of their own, in the less free states and countries, I can imagine how the effects could linger.
At Angela Appleby wrote,
My guy, knowing that you know where I live and I know where you live, let's be real here. It's also our state. We have a genuinely nice state. I'm a dasher. and I try to inject some positivity whenever possible. Today, I bought my customer a dog toy because this stupid app wouldn't let me add it to her order. The people at Tractor Supply were stunned by this, don't know why. People should be kinder, as was my customer. I didn't expect anything back because Dasher support done ticked me off by then, but she gave me an $18 tip, so. The lesson here is to be kinder. Do for others what you want them to do for you. Also, started my business during COVID so.lol.
Carla Hoff wrote,
Almost always, I feel like the Charlie Kirk question person is just the spokesperson for their group, encouraged by the group and then celebrated and or consoled by their group after Charlie puts them in order.
At M. Sinistrari wrote,
I work at a movie theater. When we reopened after quarantine, part of the pre-show before the trailers was a PSA reminding people how to behave at a theater. It had the basics of don't be on your phone during the movie and no loud talking, but it also had things like no vaping, stay fully dressed, keep your shoes on. I asked my boss if this was really necessary, and he said it was, especially what he'd heard was going on at other theaters.
Did You Say Plague wrote,
Personally, I've seen people post-pandemic get more divided and more aggressive. I'm a very centrist person who is highly anti-authoritarian. I've been this way for a long time, and I was the friend not freaking out during COVID because I actually stayed informed about it and realized that it wasn't as bad as it was made out to be 6 months in. I have friends who were moderate right-wingers and friends who were regular Democratic liberals before the pandemic. I could talk to both of them in the same room about any topic, and we'd find a middle ground. After the pandemic, my left-wing friends are going far left, toying around with socialist ideas, and my right-wing friends have begun being loyal to Trump. I'm not against everything Trump does, but I certainly don't hold loyalty to him. Needless to say, this has caused issues, and I don't often speak my full opinions with my left-wing friends anymore, but I also don't press too hard on my right-wing friends because I know that it's a lot of reactionary mindset, and I won't convince them that Trump might not be the greatest. Meanwhile, I have to lie about voting for Trump to both because the liberal friend group will feel betrayed, like I've been a fascist this entire time. And how dare I not actively choose more of the low-quality Democrat options? But if I tell my MAGA friends I voted that way, they'll not understand that it was purely just to not get Kamala Harris as my leader and nothing more. I used to pride myself on having diverse people in my life who could agree on commonalities, but now I feel like it was a facade that only worked because times were good. It's also frustrating being a traditional laissez-faire capitalist, anti-war centrist between a group who wants full socialism and another who wants to fund every war even when they pretend that they don't.
At Sunny Days 111 wrote,
The laziness in the workplace went through the roof. I cannot handle it. I can't handle coworkers constantly being out of their seat, all gathered around a gender reveal while on the clock, and the company phone is ringing. Always in the damn kitchen on their phone. Ever wonder why your dieting wife never loses weight? Because she stuffs her face at work every damn day. They claim to be on a diet, but as soon as the rep arrives with donuts and coffee, her fat butt is the first one in that kitchen shoveling it down. She doesn't need a spoon, give her a trough. People need to start working again. not just clock in and F off. That's why I do what I do now. It's the same exact job, but I only have one coworker. I make a lot more money and have extra responsibility, but at least everyone I work with actually works.
Jenny Ferrer wrote,
It's so crazy that we all experienced the lockdown differently. I enjoyed every single minute of it. I turned to Christ, quit smoking, and never looked back. The lockdown was so beneficial for me.
At David Henriksen 4368 wrote,
Facts. Something happened during COVID. I know I'm different. I never followed politics and was a liberal who hated Trump. I'm a geology major and I know how to learn, and when COVID hit, I spent 4 months reading and studying viruses at an academic level. I saw the bullshit they were feeding yous, and then I looked at who was pushing the bees. I also lost 90% of my friend group because I shared peer-reviewed science and refused the jab. It opened my eyes to the Marxist/communist/authoritarian agenda and who was pushing it. It's the uniparty lead by the globalist Democrats worldwide. Now I can smell propaganda a mile away. Unfortunately, I see it from the Trump Dodge/FBI picks as well. It's going to be a bumpy ride on our way to 2030. It sucks having to find new friends after 20 years of building friendships, but I will never compromise who I am. So glad I didn't buckle to the pressure and in hate for not taking the jab.
At Microcactusmama wrote,
I was 19 when lockdown started. I'm 25 now. I genuinely lost myself as a healthcare worker. I remember working my tail off legitimately 16 to 20-hour days during the thick of it, during lockdown, and my friends were making more than me filing unemployment than I was working my job New Jersey. I feel so stunted, I feel so scammed, and I feel so melancholic and angry at life. During the pandemic, I had to drop out of community college to focus on my job and the collective community stress. Now that I'm back in to finish my accounting degree, I feel so out of place. Most of my classmates are fresh out of high school, and I never felt like I had the opportunities to develop socially. And I was absolutely robbed of the college experience with people my age.
Finch Borat wrote,
With me, I'm still a bit of a germaphobe 5 years later. Aside from college, I've had to take care of my mom since I graduated HS 15 years ago. Tomorrow's the 15th anniversary of graduation BTW. She's had mobility issues since I graduated HS, and unexpected health issues popped up a couple of years after I graduated college. She became immobile in 2018 and has been immobile since then. She was contemplating physical therapy in early 2020, and when COVID hit, she hit the pause button on that, and it's still paused. She's in the at-risk category, and if she gets it, I could lose her. She opted against getting the COVID shots. I'm tired of taking care of her 24/7. I'm her lone source of help, and she won't get extra help. And we both want our lives back, but I don't want to risk being orphaned at 32. My dad died over 3 in T 5 years ago. I have loosened up in the last couple of years, but I'm still watching it. I always have hand sanitizer with me. 5 years later, I'm still a COVID super dodger. If I wasn't stuck with caregiving, I probably would have long gotten out of COVID mode by now. Outside of getting groceries or driving through Domino's, I didn't do anything during the worst parts of COVID. I was already ahead of the curve when it came to social distancing and limiting how often I was out of the house. 24731, that was true. Unless you took part in a protest/riot during summer 2020, or you lived in a place that had fully opened back up by late spring 2021. 846 people's lack of trust in the media was already there pre-COVID. For over a decade, the media has been heavily biased toward the Dems, and if you still think the media is fair and doesn't lie or mislead, you're not in reality. My mum had long detected the liberal bias, but she sorta succumbed to it in the last almost 2 years. She no longer views Fox as credible, but thinks the trash on MSNBC is somehow news. She said a couple of months ago she wished the would-be Trump assassin didn't miss, and just tonight, she labelled ICE as the Gestapo signs she's been watching too much MSNBC. 1535, 1543, you could do anything you want. If you were in one of the few places that wasn't super locked down. Early on during COVID, one classmate was on FB like hooping. I will say that the COVID class, as I call the class of 2020, did get a 5-month summer vacation or 6 months in places where school starts in September. I'll be curious to see if any of them not only do 5-year reunions, but try to do various senior activities they had lost out on because of COVID, unless they were made up in 2021, if not 2022. 2011-2033, that was the case with peers of mine during college in the first half of the 2010s, mainly 2012 to 2014. They needed to be told to take a chill pill and go outside, but they would never listen. The current era of polarization and massive emotional investment into various issues started during that time. That was when you started to see people start pushing social justice and other left-wing causes and politicize everything. And some of those people are still that way, while others who were either super quiet or apolitical or conservative during college became more openly left-wing in the years after college. The other day, I looked on the page of one former FB friend that got rid of me in 2012 over political differences, and he has Black Lives Matter on his profile picture along with the Palestinian flag. The BLM message has been there for 5 years, and the current profile pic with the Palestinian flag became his profile pic a few weeks after the audit. 7 attack, not months. Weeks.
At Krieg_Guardsman 9548 wrote,
Now people are just less likely to put up with other people's BS. Your personal time is important. Introverts loved it. Extroverts hated it. And more people realized they actually aren't extroverted, and that's okay.
Prickly Bird wrote,
Lockdown was heaven for like the first week, but then I got super depressed because of how monotonous online school was, and I feel like I never really bounced back from that completely.
At Bellialasts wrote,
I'm not a fan of TikTok. It's all about attention. Look at me, pay attention to me. It's all about the views and likes. People are as mad as hatters these days. They've lost their ever self-loving minds, and I am in.
At TSS 8010 wrote,
2020, COVID shut down everything on my birthday. I lost my job as a server and had to move in with my mother. My bedroom was her walk-in closet. I took a ridiculous amount of classes online and by 2022 started a nursing program while still living with my mom. I am now a nurse with my own house, and no matter the world event, I will always have a job.
At Fawnbecker 5914 wrote,
I was an odd mix of the two. I am healthcare worker, so I wasn't remote. I worked at the testing tents. I remember the day that it was announced that we had our first case like it was yesterday. I went to work. I was working in primary care. I show up there taking all our masks, sanitation wipes, and locking them up. We are all masking, and the primary care was shutting down. I remember getting the email updates on hourly the calls from patients in the hundreds. Then when the tents opened up, being sent out to work and fill the tents. I remember when we first had our COVID tests, we're doing the nasopharyngeal swab, the ones where it feels like it touches your brain. I was working the tent on this particular day and remember having a huge line. I remember a 3-year-old the most. This kid was so sick and the parent and I had to hold this kid down so hard. After doing that, you would go home and be on lockdown like everyone else. I was staying with my sister, so I would enter the garage and take work clothes off there. Then eventually I would just use clinic scrubs and not bring my clothes home at all. I finally remember the vaccine come out, and healthcare workers were amongst the first to get it. I stood in a line probably of about 1,000 people just for this shot. We were told was amazing, and if we didn't get it, we couldn't work. My second shot, my liver almost failed. Then, when I was well enough to come back, I took another position, only to find out there was mass layoffs because some healthcare workers refused the shot. I say good for those people. It is hard to actually believe now we are not having to work the tents, wear masks daily, and be forced to get every COVID shot.
Daryl 8502 wrote,
In my city, Bay Area, it's the crime and inflation that's making people think twice about going out. I started getting back into photography last year, and I am hooked. But, unfortunately for my friends, they don't feel confidently safe, so they turn down my offer to come out with me with their equipment. Pre-COVID, we hung out, party, or travel around the city with our camera still 2-3M. Things were more affordable then as well, so we felt more free to be out and spend more. Throughout the year, while taking photos of the gorgeous locations in multiple cities, I don't feel safe, despite being martial arts trained and can bench 225 pounds to 245 pounds. I've witnessed people zombies on fentanyl, wandering the city streets or secluded spots that once families' friends would congregate. Cars with broken windows. Shops and stores have closed indefinitely, so parts of the city appear dark, bleak or third world by sundown. Cities are trying to revive the nightlife by setting up events on weekends, but it's tough when those two issues persist.
Nurza Hiderashidi wrote,
During lockdown, I didn't feel much different because I had no freedom, even without lockdown. Barely visited friends, etc. If anything, online class gave me an excuse to be more online. XD also, yes, manners is so rare. The other day, a kid apologized to me, and I was in so much shock I couldn't help but smile. At least some people are still doing well here.
Gemini Keyser 7 wrote,
Wow. Zero blames on cell phones. Dating or chasing women is something from the 1800s because she has 100,000 followers, aka cell phones. People will go out to clubs and not dance thanks to who? Exactly. A lot more people are now crossing the streets looking at what? Exactly, more people now are getting fired regarding of always on the what? Exactly. People will text their parents that life is better across the dinner table. Let's not ever blame celophones. Protect by all means necessary.
Adrianather 2632 wrote,
Y'all lost lots, but you gained bullnose rings and blue hair. When I have a bad day, I just remember someone from my hometown is trying to be a rapper. Word.
Vengeli wrote,
I worked in psych during the lockdown, which amplified mental health and domestic abuse issues. It also caused new mental health issues in those who were otherwise happy-go-lucky. The collateral damage will be seen for years to come.
Yanel Gonzalez 9274 wrote,
COVID gave me the blessing of working remote and going to Florida to be with my family for 10 months. My grandpa died in 2021 and my mom recently died. It brings me comfort that I was able to spend so much time with them from 20 to 2022 due to the flexibility COVID gave me.
Aquatic Kappa wrote,
I had so much fun during lockdown. I wasn't expected to be anywhere or do anything. I'm an introvert with extroverted tendencies, so I had so much fun being alone.
Diane McGowan 527 wrote,
My husband, that was my best friend, and we worked together all through COVID. He died of an accident 9 months ago. I go out alone all the time. It's better than being with a friend that you are trapped with eating out. I wish it was different.
King Duck 6921 wrote,
COVID did something to California drivers. It was already bad before, but now it seems like everyone is in a rush and tries to make an exit by cutting 5 lanes.
At user YN6TH4XL4P wrote,
I definitely think people are different. People seem like they are easily agitated and are mean. I don't know how to explain it, but there was some kind of shift, and it wasn't good. Maybe it was political. The phone I did say, hey, we lost our jobs, but had the most fun that summer. We did so much as a family, biking, swimming, having dinner. It was very hard, but nice to slow down and be a family. My kids were older at the time, and they say it was a fun time.
At Duri_Yaki wrote,
If you go to a college campus, it is exactly like how it is at 1642. Everyone is super distant from one another, both physically and emotionally. It's hard as fuck to just talk to new people. Never mind me an absolute introvert, even just other people, don't bother talking to new people unless forced to. We all avoid each other and just do our own thing. Making new friends in college is so fucking hard. Also, yeah, people aren't super interested in making small talk or just mundane everyday topics. The people I could talk about that stuff with were mostly people that were either older or had an older mindset like me, a Gen Z with a Gen X or millennial mindset.
At Joijo7553 wrote,
COVID robbed me of my early 20s. I was 24, I'm about to be 30 this month. Oh, I feel I missed out so much. Plus, people are so rude now. For example, no one says thank you or excuse me in public spaces. People will literally bump into you and keep walking.